Hi there! In this tutorial, I will show you how you can make a 3D simulation of a bomb exploding inside a house made of bricks. This program will have an explosion sound effect, and I used a combination of Python programming and Blender. First, let's have a look at what the result will be like. I have these files in this folder, and the one I'm going to run is this one. A Blender file is opened up. Now you can see this big square is blocking our view, so I click somewhere else on this Blender screen. Now I bake the data, so I go to Physics Properties, and I bake it. Here we can see how much percent is baked so far. Let me fast forward for you guys. The baking process is almost finished. There. Now I simply press the space bar. If you're wondering what this wireframe around here is for, this is the domain of our animation. We need a domain if we want these fire particles. A little. You can see I have this plane supporting the blocks for the roof. Let's go inside the house. First, let me stop it by pressing the space bar. I'll go back to frame 1. Here you can see we have the ceiling of our house. So if this is me, I'm lying down on the ground. Now let me press the space bar and see the animation. Ah, the roof is falling on top of me. Now let me just come out of it. This is the view from on top. Now, let's have a look at how we can program this. So to close this, I simply close this, and I can choose to save it or not. If I choose to save it, they will save this inside a Blender file, and I won't have to bake it anymore. If I choose not to save it, I'll have to run that program and bake it again. First, let's have a look at what's in this file that I ran. It's simple. I import OS, and I use os.system to call this Blender file along with this Python file that's in the current directory. So let's have a look at what's in that Python file. First, you can see I import these things on top. I will be using them. Now I go to frame 1, and here, in case our Blender file is not in object mode, I set the mode to object. That way we can edit things or add objects. Now, I want to show all the hidden objects because sometimes they may be hidden objects that we don't want. Then I select all and delete them. Now we have an empty Blender file to work with. Here, I set this mode so that the audio will go in order with the frames. And over here, if there are any sounds already in our file, I want to remove them all. You know you can never be too safe. Now, I define this function I call random circle. This will return a random point on an imaginary sphere. So the default radius for my sphere is 1, and it will return a random point on the surface of that sphere. Now, I create 20 spheres that will destroy the house. You see, in Blender, when we have two objects that overlap each other, they will create this effect that they are exploding out. Because you know in real life, two objects cannot overlap each other. So I use that function I defined to have 20 spheres on an imaginary spheres of radius 1. So that way they will overlap each other. Maybe a picture can more explain it. Let's say this is my imaginary sphere, and I used that function to return random points on that sphere. Here are the spheres that will actually destroy the house. One sphere here, and they're all on random points of the surface of the circle. So right now they're all on the sides. Here's one in front of that circle. And we have 20 of those. You get the picture. They will explode. Now, I'll just close this. And I hide all of them because I don't want us to actually see them. I define these variables. You will see what they are for soon. I create the floor or the ground for our house. Without a floor or ground, our house will fall down because of gravity. And the reason the floor does not fall is because I set the type to passive. Passive will make it be stuck in mid-air. Here, I create some pyramids that I need for the roof. This is the function I define to create the pyramids for a roof. You see, Python does not provide some pyramids we might need. So, in order to get those, I take a cube and slice it to different pieces. This function is something I made so we can slice a cube into different pieces, but I haven't done that yet. Here I define a function that uses that function I defined at first, and this will give us a pyramid that is like, let me just open this so we can have a look. That function I named corner 1 will give us the pyramids you see on the side of the house. So it's these. Corner 2 will give us the pyramids you see over here. These, which are also these. Now, here this function does something just like this function here, but it's a little more sophisticated. It will give us more options for slicing. Corner 1, 2 will give us the pyramid you see over. Let me just go up and see if I have it. We'll give you this pyramid. Oops, this is not it. I don't have it in this version of the house, but it is basically a pyramid that's on one side is a triangle. Let me just show you. Oops. it will give you this pyramid that in some cases where my house will be a little bigger, they'll give you a triangle. They'll give you these triangles on top. Corner 2 will give you a pyramid that's, let me just go here. Sorry, my roof is a bit small, but it's supposed to give you a pyramid that's on the corner of the top of the roof. There's when your roof is a bit bigger, or in some cases, it'll be like this part. You can see the outline my mouse is supposed to make. And corner 3-2 will give you if your roof is a square, it will give you the very tip of the roof. Now, in this formatted for loop, I create the bottom of the house, or you can say it's just a house without the roof. Here's where I use the height, length, and width. Now, I append a little bit to each of these for the roof, because I want the roof to overlap the house a little. And here is where I create the roof. And here I have these conditions where if that condition is met, which means we are on one place of the house, I use one of these corner functions I defined. So you can see here I use corner 3-2, which is the very tip of the house if the roof is a square. And over here I use corner 2, which is the corner of, let me just open that again, which is these. And this is the top corner. The corners on the very top, but in my case I don't have them. And the rest, you can see what I said before if you can remember. Here I rotate them a bit. Oops. Now, over here, I'm creating that plane that supports the roof. I have a little width to it. It might not be enough, as you've seen, or you might have seen in some videos. Now, here I want my animation to be 20 frames long. I can change it by simply changing this number, so we have a longer animation. Here I create the sphere where particles come out of. You see, there's a special way where we can get particles in Blender, but we need an object for them to come out of. So I have a sphere, but I do not want them to see it. So I hide it. Here I make the particles. Here I make the particles. And here I put fire on the particles. And if you can remember, we need a domain if we want fire. I will soon come to that. Here are the keyframes where things change. And here are some other keyframes where things change. And I go back to frame 1, since while we're editing we may have came out of frame 1. Now I hide the particles and the sphere that particles come out of. That's just for this one. This one is for launching the sound in this file location. Now over here, I create the domain for the fire, and that's about it. Let me run the program one more time. It's already open here, so I guess I have to bake it. So I go to Physics Properties, and I bake the data, which is going to take a while. It takes about 4 minutes or 5. I'll just fast forward. The baking process is almost done. There, we're finished. So I press the space bar. This is the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions, requests, suggestions, or comments, please leave them down in the comment section below. Please subscribe to my channel. It's called NetsEDU. Today is May 6th, 2020. Please hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. And if you enjoyed this video, have a look at my other videos. They might help you into programming or math. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.